She didn't even look me in the eyes. Just handed me the envelope. Inside it, a printed invitation with my name crossed out, in red ink. The wedding was happening in my house. But I wasn't welcome. I stared at the envelope like it might change if I blinked slow enough. But the name, my name, it stayed crossed. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from in the comments. It wasn't just an invitation. It was a message. A declaration that I was no longer needed, that I had outlived my usefulness. I stood at the door for a while after she left, the footsteps of my daughter Emma echoing down the porch steps, same steps I once carried her down when she'd fall asleep in the car. I didn't cry. Not then. Just stared at the closed door and realized the house was quieter than it had ever been. I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway, loud, almost mocking. They were calling it her big day, and yet everything from the garden lights to the champagne glassware had been chosen with my money. My hands had dug the soil for the garden roses. My savings built the deck she'd walked down in her white dress. And yet, I wasn't set part of it. Emma used to call me her hero. She'd bring me handmade cards every Father's Day with crooked hearts and misspelled words. I still had them tucked away in a drawer she probably forgot existed. But then came Ryan. The polished, corporate type. Good smile, good degree, good at pretending to care. He shook my hand with two hands when he met me, like politicians do when they need your vote. I didn't dislike him immediately. That came later, slowly, like rust on a family heirloom. Emma changed. Not overnight, but enough for me to notice. Less calls, shorter visits, more talk about boundaries and modern families, words I'd never heard from her before. I remember one evening, maybe a year ago, she told me I was emotionally rigid. I just asked her why she skipped Sunday dinner. She said Ryan believed negativity can shape our reality, that it was unhealthy to be around people who clung to the past. I was the past. Still, I smiled, bit my tongue, kept the garden trimmed, kept the lights on, paid the bills, until the envelope. I didn't even get a phone call, not a conversation, just a piece of paper crossed out, like I was a mistake they couldn't erase, so they drew a line through me instead. I sat at the kitchen table with that envelope in my hand for 2 hours. Didn't move, didn't eat, just listened to the sound of the fridge humming and the rain tapping on the window. That night, I didn't sleep. My body lay down but my mind paced, over and over. How did we get here? What had I done so wrong? Was loving her too much a problem? Maybe I should have argued more. Fought back when Ryan made suggestions about modernizing the estate. Maybe I shouldn't have let them move into the main house when their lease ended. But I truly thought, that being kind would eventually be remembered, that they'd know where the roots of this house came from. That blood would count. I was wrong. The next morning, I made coffee like I always did. Black, bitter, just the way I felt inside. I walked through the house. Slowly, room by room. Every corner held a memory. Emma's height markings on the pantry door. My late wife's reading glasses still on the side table exactly where she left them the night before her heart gave up. This wasn't just a house. It was a museum of our love, our struggle, our time. And yet, now it was theirs. Or so they thought. I stepped into the den. The fireplace stared back at me like a silent witness. Behind it, in a place I hadn't looked in 14 years, was a loose panel. I pulled it open. Inside was a small wooden box. My wife had called it the just-in-case box. Inside, a key, a document folder, a USB drive, and her handwriting, a note. If ever you are treated like you don't belong here, remember, this house remembers, and so do I. I sat down on the floor, and I opened the box. That envelope wasn't the only thing I opened that week. I watched the wedding live stream from the gardener's phone, the chair where I used to sit every Sunday, given to Ryan's uncle. They didn't know I could see them. Maybe they didn't care. That part hurt more. It was a sunny day. The kind of day Emma used to say reminded her of her mother, and there she was, walking down the deck we built together, smiling like nothing in the world had ever been broken. I stood by the side gate, out of sight. I didn't want the gardener to feel uncomfortable. He offered me the phone and said, "Sir, I thought you'd want to see it at least." I nodded, but my hands shook. She looked beautiful. I won't lie, that part still brings tears I hide in my sleeve. The dress was ivory, classic, modest. Her mother would have loved it. But all I could see was distance. They had rearranged the furniture, moved the old oak table to the garden, turned the living room into a staging area for photographers. My study, once filled with bills and Emma's school reports, now held champagne buckets and half-opened makeup bags. No one asked. No one informed. Just took. I noticed details others would miss. The clock on the wall still ticked, but someone had covered it with a canvas that said "Forever starts today." I couldn't help but laugh. Just a little. Because forever had already started long ago. In hospital waiting rooms. In late-night grocery runs. In whispered lullabies during thunderstorms. She forgot. Or maybe she chose to forget. I remember the first time I held Emma. She wasn't crying. Just staring. Like she already knew the world would be hard and was deciding if she'd fight or flee. She clung to my thumb like it was a lifeline. And in many ways, it was. Her mother passed when Emma was 6. Aneurysm. No warning. Just gone. The night of the funeral, Emma crawled into my bed and asked, "Who's Sep's going to brush my hair now?" I brushed it every day for 3 years. I learned how to braid from a YouTube video, bought a pink brush with a cartoon sticker she liked. That sticker stayed on the mirror till she left for college. And now I was watching my daughter get married from a gardener's phone while she posed in front of the house I still paid taxes on. At one point during the ceremony, Ryan lifted her veil and kissed her forehead. The guests clapped. Emma smiled, wide and proud. I saw her look around. For a second I thought maybe she was looking for me. But then she turned back to the officiant. They said their vows. I couldn't hear clearly, but I saw the tears, happy ones. The kind I hadn't seen on her face in years. Maybe Ryan really did make her happy. Maybe that's what made all this worse. Because he had replaced me. Quietly. Efficiently. And Emma let it happen. I don't yet know when it started. The turning. Maybe during college, when she came back talking about manifesting abundance and cutting off low-vibe people. Maybe it was when I told her Ryan reminded me of those insurance men who talk smooth but dodge hard questions. She didn't say it like that. She said I always judged people. Said I was stuck in the past. Said my way of love was too heavy. Maybe she was right. But I carried that weight for both of us. When Emma got sick in her sophomore year, I drove overnight to bring her soup. She said I embarrassed her in front of her dorm mates. I still left the soup. She didn't thank me. Still, I stayed silent. Even when she told me they were moving into the estate, said it made sense. The house is too big for one person anyway. That was the first time I realized she didn't see it as mine anymore. She called it the estate. Not Dad Sip's house. They moved in 6 months later. Ryan started renovating. New furniture. Open floor plans. Hired an interior designer. Said they wanted it brighter, as if memories had become mildew. They moved my wife's painting to the garage. Said it didn't match the new color scheme. That night I sat outside with a drink I shouldn't have had. I watched them laugh through the window. And for the first time, I felt like a tenant in my own bloodline. But I said nothing. Because silence was the only currency I had left. Until today, they had set up a table near the rose bushes. My favorite spot, Emma knew that. She used to call it Dad Sip's Corner whenever guests came over. She even painted a rock when she was 10 that said reserved for Papa. Today that seat was given to Ryan's uncle, some man I'd never met. He was laughing loudly, glass raised, chewing with his mouth open. I almost walked in right then. Almost made a scene, but I didn't. Said, Because, if grief taught me one thing, it's that pain, when quiet, echoes louder. I walked away from the gardener, didn't say much, just handed him the phone and said, "Thank you." He nodded, eyes lowered. He looked like he wanted to say more but didn't. That told me everything. Even the staff knew what was being done was wrong. I walked to the shed, sat on the old bench where Emma once fed stray cats. The wood was cracked now, the paint faded. Kind of like me. I pulled out the note from my wife's box again, read it slowly. Her handwriting wasn't steady, but the message was, "If ever you are treated like you don't belong here, remember this house remembers, and so do I." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. They thought I'd disappear quietly, but I was just getting started. Buried behind the fireplace, behind fake bricks, was a box I hadn't opened in 14 years. I hadn't even looked at it since the day we sealed it. My wife's idea said some things shouldn't sit in folders, said they needed to be hidden until the time was right. I had told her she was being overly dramatic, but she insisted, said love wasn't always about trust, sometimes it was about timing. Back then, I thought the timing would be Emma's 30th birthday. I thought wrong. It took me 2 hours to pry the bricks loose. My hands shook, not from the weight, but from the memories. Every brick felt like peeling back a version of myself I'd tried to bury too. When I finally pulled it out, the dust was thick, but the wood was intact. Mahogany. She had picked it because the grain looked like it had veins. I placed the box on the dining table, the same table where Emma had done her homework, where we'd played cards during power outages. Now it was silent, sterile. I opened the lid. Inside was the envelope with her handwriting. "If you sit rereading this, then something's been broken." Underneath that, documents. Thick ones, bound with red string. Notarized? Deeds. Trusts. A will. And a black USB drive, labeled only with the date May 9th, 2010. I sat down. My wife had thought of everything, and I had forgotten it all. The first document I pulled out was the house deed. Original copy. My name, only my name, written across the title. No co-owner. No transfer. No confusion. For all the decorating Ryan had done, the floors still belonged to me. The second was a handwritten letter. Her words, shaky but powerful. "I hope you never need this box. But if you do, please don't hesitate. Emma is your daughter. But she is also a woman now, and women can be cruel when love is misplaced." That line hurt more than the rest. I had always believed Emma's love was true, unbreakable. But maybe my wife had seen something I hadn't. Maybe she always knew. I plugged in the USB. The audio file was grainy. Just 2 voices, hers and our lawyer's. She was nervous, kept asking questions. Will this protect him? What if they manipulate him? Can the trust revert back to his name if things go wrong? The lawyer kept saying yes, reassuring her. She asked him to keep everything confidential until the key was used. Her last sentence on the tape: "If they ever make him feel like a guest in his own home, remind him whose hands built that roof." My hands trembled. She had prepared for betrayal before it happened. And I had buried her twice. Once in the ground and once behind that wall. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with those papers spread across the table. I traced her handwriting with my finger. I read the documents line by line. I imagined the conversations she must have had behind my back. Not out of secrecy, but protection. The next morning I called the law firm, same number, same receptionist. "I need to speak to Mr. Halbridge," I said. There was a pause. Then, "He sits retired, sir, but his son has taken over. He sits reviewed your file. Says everything sits in order." An hour later I was in their office. Modern furniture, chrome edges, abstract art. All of it screamed money. But I wasn't here for the design. His son Miles looked young but composed. Same voice as his father. "I've been expecting you, Mr. Hartley." That told me all I needed to know. He slid a folder toward me. "All documents are still valid. Nothing has been transferred. The trust is revocable and the power of attorney remains in your name." I nodded. "I want to initiate the reversal. All of it." He didn't flinch. Just asked for my ID. "Do you want to notify them formally or quietly?" "Quietly," I said. He nodded. "Understood." He handed me a pen. I signed. My name felt heavy on the paper. When I left the office, the sky was cloudy, like it was holding back something. I didn't go home right away. I drove to the lake, parked by the old dock, sat on the bench Emma used to feed ducks from. I didn't feel proud. Didn't feel victorious. Just hollow. Like I was watching my own funeral in slow motion. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to get married. I was supposed to walk her down the aisle. I was supposed to cry happy tears, give a toast, dance with her to some old song I'd pretend to like. Instead, I was pulling levers behind the curtain. And yet, I couldn't stop. Because something had snapped. And when a wire snaps in an old machine, you don't fix it. You replace the whole thing. That evening, I returned home. Emma and Ryan weren't back yet. Their honeymoon had started the day after the wedding. Italy. Florence, I think. Good. I needed time. I walked through the halls slowly. Every photo on the wall felt like a lie. I removed 3 of them. Packed them in a box, not out of anger, but because they didn't belong anymore. In the study, I locked the documents in the drawer. I placed the box back behind the fireplace but left the panel slightly open. A warning. Let them wonder. Let them feel that something had shifted. Because it had. And not just legally. I wasn't going to take the house back. I was going to take everything back. Her exact words. "Dad, I don't want negative energy at my wedding. I raised her in a war zone of bills and broken appliances, and now I'm negativity." The call came 4 days after the wedding, middle of the afternoon. I saw her name flash on the screen, and for a second I almost didn't answer, but I did. She sounded calm. Too calm. "Hey, Dad," she said. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond immediately. She continued. I wanted to explain a few things, about the wedding, about everything." I leaned back in the chair. "Go on." She hesitated, then laughed lightly. "You said you're mad, I get it, but please let me finish before you say anything." I stayed silent. I wanted to hear what she'd rehearsed. "I know you said hurt," she said, "but this was about setting boundaries, healthy ones. Ryan and we've been reading a lot about generational trauma, how parents pass down fear, scarcity mindset, judgment. I didn't want that energy around on my day." My jaw clenched. But I didn't speak. She went on. "You've always been a little intense, Dad. The way you talk about people, the way you make everything about responsibility and duty, it's heavy, and I didn't want to carry that into my marriage." I looked at the fireplace across from me. The panel behind it still sat slightly open. She kept talking. "This doesn't mean I don't love you, it just means I have to love you from a safe distance." That line hit harder than the rest. From a safe distance? I cleared my throat. "So that's what I am now." "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly. "I just mean the version of you that raised me, while admirable, came from a different world, and maybe that version isn't compatible with the life I trying to build." I smiled bitterly. Compatible. Like I from a software update. She sighed. "See, that tone. That sarcasm. It exactly what I mean. You always twist things, Dad." "I twist things?" "You do. You take every disagreement as an attack, every boundary as betrayal. And crossing my name off an invitation? I didn't cross it out. That was Ryan Sip's idea. There it was." I stood up and walked to the window. The garden looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. Ryan thought it would be less awkward, she continued. You weren't set happy with the wedding plans. You were cold to him. He felt disrespected. I turned back to the phone. I paid for everything. There was silence. I repeated, slower. I paid for everything, Emma. I know. And we were grateful. But money doesn't buy by emotional safety. I almost laughed. Emotional safety. Yes, she said. I felt judged by you. We both did. And on our big day we didn't want that judgment. We wanted joy. I sat back down. Do you remember, I said quietly, the night your mother died? Dad? Do you remember how you screamed when they took her body away? How you couldn't sleep in your room for weeks? Who sat with you every night on the floor? I know. Who learned how to braid your hair because you didn't want the other girls at school to think you didn't have a mother? She went quiet. I swallowed. Who skipped job promotions because traveling would mean less time with you? Who gave up the idea of ever remarrying because you once said, "Thou dies it want to share," you said. I didn't ask for that. You didn't have to. The silence between us stretched like a bridge fraying. I could hear her breathing, steady, controlled. Dad, she said finally, you keep bringing up the past like it gives you permission to hurt me now. I haven't hurt you. You make me feel guilty for growing up, for having different values, for choosing a partner who challenges your worldview. I leaned forward. No, Emma, I make you feel the weight of history, because you act like you came from nowhere, like everything before Ryan was a blurry prologue. She didn't respond. I softened. Just a little. I sitman not angry that you got married. I sitman not even angry that you love someone who thinks I sitman outdated. I sitman angry that you let him erase me, in my own house. He didn't erase you. You crossed out my name. She went silent again. I waited. Then she said, I said I'm sorry you feel that way. And I'm sorry you feel that way. Not I, said. I'm sorry I did that. I stood again, restless, pacing. She paused. He sits in consulting. What kind? Strategy. What has he built? What has he sacrificed? What has he protected? Dad, stop. I stopped. She took a breath. This is what I mean. You interrogate. You don't trust. You assume. I observe. No, she said. Firm now. You control. I sat down, slower this time. I said nothing. She added, all I wanted was a peaceful start. A clean one. I closed my eyes. Peace isn't about erasing the past, Emma. It's about honoring it quietly. She didn't respond. Then she said, I don't want to argue. We are not arguing. It feels like it. No. This is me letting you speak. She sighed. Then, can I say this? Go ahead. I love you. But I need space. That word again. I nodded though she couldn't see me. Okay. She sounded surprised. Okay. I've heard what I needed. Pause. I said I'm glad you called, I added. Really? Yes. She exhaled. That means a lot. But she didn't no. She didn't know what I signed. She didn't know about the documents in the drawer. She didn't know about the financial leash she was standing on. She said, we shall talk again soon? I replied, sure. Love you. I paused. You too. And I ended the call. I sat in silence for a long time. No music, no TV, just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint echo of her voice. She didn't sound cruel. That's what made it worse. She sounded rational, clear, polished, as if someone had coached her, as if love had been rewritten into policy statements. I walked to the study, opened the drawer, pulled out the folder. Trust Fund Emma Hartley. Still active. Still feeding her card. She forgot I still had control over the trust fund her honeymoon was riding on. At 7:15 a.m., her honeymoon card declined. I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table, stirring cold coffee I didn't plan to drink. The call flashed with an Italian number I didn't recognize. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. "Dad," Emma said's voice was thin, high, controlled by panic she was trying to mask. "Something said's wrong with the card. It said's saying it said's been frozen." I didn't answer right away. I wanted to hear how far she'd go before admitting what she already feared. "We sat her at the hotel restaurant," she said. "Ryan tried to pay. It didn't just go through, then my card didn't just either. I checked the bank app and there says nothing." Silence sat between us like a witness. "Did you do something?" she finally asked. I set the coffee spoon down. "I thought you didn't want my negative energy on your trip." "Dad?" she snapped. "This isn't it funny." I am not laughing. Ryan Septa's voice entered in the background, sharp and rising. "What Septa's he saying? Ask him if he thinks this is a game." Emma lowered her voice. "Did you cancel the trust fund?" "No," I said plainly. "I froze it. Temporarily." Her breath caught. "You can do that. It sits in my name." "No, it's not. It was assigned to you, but the fund, the authority, the beneficiary rights, all legally remain under me." "That sits legal," I cut in. More silence. Then, shakily she said, "This is cruel." "No, Emma, this is clean. You're punishing me." "No. I set reminding you." Her voice cracked. "Of what?" "That comfort costs something." Ryan shouted again in the background. "This is financial abuse. Tell him we will sue." I almost smiled. "You sue for a gift?" I heard her covering the phone, whispering to Ryan, more scrambling. Then she came back, tone shifted, measured now, pleading. "Can we talk about this? Please? Can we not do this from across countries? We already did." "Dad." "I'd not doing anything to you, Emma. I'd just taking a break." She didn't respond. I stood from the table, walked slowly to the window. The sun was rising, clean light. No filter. "You said you needed space," I continued. "You said my presence was toxic, that my way of loving was outdated, that you needed peace. This is me stepping back, financially, emotionally, legally. But this isn't what I meant." "I know," I said. "But it sets what you needed." Another pause. I could hear her trying not to cry. Then Ryan again, louder now, losing patience. "We still get a lawyer. This is fraud." I finally spoke directly to him. "Ryan, this is control, the kind you said I abused, the kind you said'll learn about in the fine print." Emma tried to speak, but I interrupted. "It's sepsis temporary. Emma, I haven't deleted you from everything. Not yet. But I need you to feel what absence really is. Not emotionally, practically. We are stranded. There are worse places to be stranded than Florence." That silence again. I could almost hear her remembering things, nights in the old house when we didn't have power, when the fridge broke, when I made her dinner from a camping stove, when being broke didn't mean being unloved. Now she had it all, except that love. And maybe that's what scared her. I saw transfer some money to cover the trip. I said eventually, "Not the card, just a transfer. Enough for the next 10 days. I don't want your pity."
It's not pity.
It's parenting. "But you won't hear from me again until I get a call that sounds like a daughter, not a client." Her breath caught again. "I love you," I added. "I know," I said. "That's how I felt for the last year." I ended the call. I walked back to the study, sat in the same chair where I had first held her medical bills when she was 6 and feverish and coughing blood. I opened the drawer again. There was another envelope. The new will. They thought that was the worst part. They hadn't seen the new will. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. I didn't need a lawyer to scream. Just needed a printer, a stamp, and 42 years of evidence. People think revenge comes with fire. I've learned it lands best in envelopes. The first one went to the county clerk's office. Change of beneficiary. Transfer of title back into my name. All the documents were already signed, sealed the same week Emma got on that flight. I included a notarized copy of the will, the new one. The second letter went to Ryan Sepps's employer. It wasn't just petty. It was precise. He had used my address on multiple documents while claiming independent residency in another state for tax benefits. I highlighted the clause in his employment contract about ethical compliance, then attached screenshots of a public fundraiser he held in the backyard, the same backyard zoned as private estate, not commercial property. They said don't know what to do with it. I didn't stop there. The third letter was addressed to the homeowners association. I kept it short, bullet-pointed. Cited noise violations from the wedding, unauthorized renovations, and temporary lodging listings I'd found under an Airbnb profile with Ryan's email. I added photos, crumpled napkins in the rose bed, beer cans by the koi pond, the broken gate latch they never fixed. Facts speak louder than bitterness. The fourth envelope was more personal. It went to a neighbor, Dan. He's an old friend, used to help me patch up plumbing when I couldn't afford a real contractor. His daughter was Emma's best friend in 3rd grade. We hadn't spoken in years, but I knew he still respected me. Inside that envelope, a copy of the court motion, the title deed, and one request. When they start to panic, I wrote, I need someone they can gaslight. Dan called me the next day. Didn't Seth think you had it in you? He said. Neither did I. You want me to deliver it in person? No, I said. Just be there quietly. He chuckled. Old wolves don't bark, they just bite once. He was right. 3 days later I received confirmation from the clerk's office. The deed was re-registered. My name, full unbroken, was printed at the top again. I printed another copy, pinned it on the fridge, not out of pride, out of memory. They came back the next evening. Emma walked in first, suitcases in both hands. Ryan followed, looking at his phone. Jaw tight. They didn't notice the letter on the table until after they'd set their bags down. Emma read it first. Then read it again. Ryan grabbed it, flipped pages like he was looking for a loophole to jump through. This isn't illegal, he snapped. It is, I said. Walking in from the hallway, fully executed, witnessed, filed. Emma's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She just looked confused. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this? I didn't answer with words. I handed her a photo, one she'd missed packing. It was of her 3rd birthday. She was sitting on my shoulders, her hands covered in cake, my face smeared with frosting, her mother laughing in the background. You gave that up, I said. I didn't, Stet. You let him turn this house into a platform, into a brand, into a background prop. Emma Sips's lips trembled. We didn't mean. You didn't think. That Sips the problem. Ryan stepped forward. We have rights. No? You had access. He clenched his fists. You not being reasonable. Exactly, I said. Calm. This isn't about reason anymore. This is about reclaiming. I handed him a copy of the letter sent to his employer. He skimmed it, his face going pale. I nodded. This could ruin my job. I said nothing. Hema turned to me, her voice low. Where are we supposed to go? There's Sipsa Hotel 10 minutes away. You start evicting your own daughter? No, I said. I am restoring my home. She shook her head. This was our forever place. I looked her straight in the eyes. She called it her forever home. The court called it mine. They were both in the driveway. No luxury SUV this time. Just a borrowed car and red eyes. I watched from the kitchen window for a full minute before I opened the door. Emma stepped out first. Her hair wasn't done. No makeup, just swollen eyelids and a wrinkled sweater I recognized from years ago. Ryan stayed in the car, gripping the steering wheel like it owed him something. I didn't move. Just leaned against the doorframe. Emma saw me. Her lips parted, but no words came. I let her come halfway up the steps before I said anything. You stir back earlier than expected. She swallowed hard. We had to cut the trip short. I imagine so. She looked over her shoulder at the car, then back at me. I didn't answer. Ryan stepped out. Now, his shoes hit the gravel harder than necessary. Look, Mr. Hartley. No need for formality, I said. You stir standing on my gravel again. Let's not pretend we forgot that. Emma winced. Ryan exhaled sharply, but said nothing. She tried again. Can we talk? We are talking. Her voice cracked. Inside. Please. I looked at the sky. It was overcast. The kind that promised rain but didn't rush it. I prefer fresh air these days, I said. They stood there, both waiting for me to soften. I didn't. Emma took a step closer. Dad, I raised an eyebrow. Everything? She nodded. The wedding. The house. The things I said. What did you say again? Something about me being a burden? Her face dropped. I didn't mean it. But you said it. I was confused. Pressured. By him? I asked, gesturing to Ryan. Ryan bristled. We both made mistakes. That's one word for it. Emma's hands trembled. We were trying to build something new. And you decided to do it by tearing down the old. She blinked hard. I thought I could fix it later. You don't build over a grave and call it a foundation. She looked down. The silence that followed was heavy. Not awkward, just full. Ryan cleared his throat. We said we're not here to fight. I not fighting. We said trying to make things right. I tilted my head. Are you here because you lost something or because you remembered someone? That one landed. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. I miss you. That's not what it felt like at the wedding. She stepped back, breathing shaky. Yusep's right. I was cruel. I didn't understand what I was doing. I thought I was doing what was best for me. Sometimes, I said quietly, what feels best is just what feels easiest. Her eyes welled up. I've been remembering things, the way you stayed up with me during storms, the way you cut the crust off my sandwiches even though you hated wasting food, the way you never let me feel poor even when we were. She took another step forward. I forgot all of that, and I'm so sorry. I didn't speak. Not yet. Ryan finally moved. We know we messed up. I let my ego get in the way. I thought I was protecting Emma, but I was just protecting myself from your judgment. And now I see the difference between judgment and truth. I looked at him. His eyes didn't flinch. That surprised me. Still, I said, words are cheap. He nodded. So we came with actions. I waited. Emma opened her bag, pulled out a manila envelope. She handed it to me. I didn't open it right away. What is it? Signed exit from the trust. Transfer of all remaining rights. We don't want the house. We don't want the money. We just want you. My throat tightened, but I didn't show it. Why now? Because it took losing it all to realize what we really lost. I looked at the envelope, then at Emma, then at Ryan. Their faces didn't lie. But wounds don't heal just because someone applies pressure. I'm not ready, I said. Emma nodded, tears falling now. Okay. I don't hate you, I added. But I can forget. I wouldn't ask you to. I Tired, I said. She reached into her bag again, pulled out a smaller object. My mother Sit's photo album. I froze. Where did you get that? I found it in the attic. Thought it was junk at first. Then I saw the note inside. It said, "For his quiet days. Sets." She handed it to me like it was sacred. And in a way it was. I took it, slowly. Held it like it might vanish. Emma stepped back. Neither of them asked again to come in. They just stood there, waiting. But I didn't move. The first drop of rain hit the porch. Then another. I turned, walked inside and closed the door behind me. Not loudly, just firmly. Through the window I saw them still standing in the rain, waiting for something I didn't know if I could give yet. Forgiveness takes time, and some doors take longer to open. I left the gate open, but not the door. No applause came when I sat alone in the backyard. But the silence, it felt like peace. Not victory, not revenge. Just stillness. It had been 6 weeks since the house emptied, since the suitcases rolled down the driveway, since Emma's eyes couldn't meet mine and Ryan's mouth stayed shut. They didn't fight it after the last conversation. They didn't send letters or lawyers. They just left. And in the end, that was louder than anything they ever said. I thought I'd feel triumphant. I didn't sit. I felt tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with sleep. The kind that settles in your bones after years of carrying weight no one else could see. The house was mine again. Every room, every window, every creaking floorboard that still echoed with childhood laughter and midnight pacing. But it didn't feel like it used to. Some ghosts don't vanish when the people do. Some settle in the wallpaper and wait. After they left, I packed only what I needed. Some clothes, a few tools, the photo albums, and her urn. I didn't say goodbye to the house. I didn't need to. It had already said goodbye to me long ago. I bought a small cabin near the lake, remote enough to avoid traffic, close enough to town if I needed bread or a storm warning. It's nothing fancy. Wood walls, iron stove, old couch I dragged in myself. The floor creaks. The ceiling leaks if the wind comes from the east. But it sits quiet. And when the sun hits the lake just right, everything stops hurting for a few seconds. I brought her photo with me. The one from our honeymoon. She's standing barefoot on a boat dock, hair wild from the wind, smile soft but sure. I talk to it more than I care to admit. Sometimes I ask if I waited too long. If I should have said more when Emma started slipping away. If I should have fought harder before silence became my only weapon. Last night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the back steps. Held the photo in my hands and whispered, "I sits sorry for the delay." Because she wanted Emma to have it all. The house, the safety, the legacy. But not like this. Not through entitlement. Not through emotional exile. She would have forgiven faster than me. She always did. I hear her voice sometimes. Not literally. Just in memories that bubble up when the wind gets still. "You sept too quiet when you sept are angry," she used to say. "Speak before the silence starts building walls." But I didn't speak. I let the bricks stack. And now the silence isn't a wall. It's as a home. A few days ago, I got a letter from Emma. Handwritten. No email. No texts. Just an envelope that smelled like rain and regret. She didn't ask for money, didn't ask for permission. She just wrote what she remembered. How I used to whistle while fixing the fence. How I'd sneak her chocolates after dentist appointments. How I never let her see me cry when her mother died, but always let her cry when she needed to. She ended the letter with one line. "I thought you were iron. I didn't realize you were glass until I broke you." I read it 5 times. Then I folded it carefully and placed it under her mother's photo. I didn't write back. Not yet. Not because I'm so angry. Because I want the silence to say what words can't. I leave the mailbox unlocked now. just in case. Sometimes I imagine her walking up the cabin path, nervous, unsure, holding another envelope or just her hands. I don't know if I did hug her right away. I don't know if I sit and say anything at all. But I stat open the door. And maybe that's enough for now. I don't want a grand reunion. I just want a real one. Some days I sit on the dock and try to remember her as a child. Before the voice coaching. Before the social filters. Before Ryan. Just her barefoot, messy-haired asking questions about stars and time and why the moon follows the car. That girl didn't care about trust funds. She cared about bedtime stories and whether monsters were real. I miss that girl. I miss being her shield. Now I set my own. But even shields get heavy. Yesterday I fixed the fence behind the cabin. Nailed down some loose boards, cleared the weeds, patched the corner with chicken wire. As I hammered the last nail, a thought passed through me so suddenly it made my hand freeze mid-swing. I bet's not healing. I bet's just learning how to sit with the scar. I think that's what aging is. Not fixing everything. Just learning what can't be fixed and carrying it anyway. I looked up at the sky and whispered, "Is that enough?" The breeze didn't answer. But a bird landed on the porch rail. It didn't fly away when I moved. Didn't panic when I stood up. It just sat there, watching, breathing the same air I was. And for a moment it felt like forgiveness in feathered form. No drama. No speech. Just presence. That's what I want from Emma someday. Not a monologue. Not a breakdown. Just her showing up. Without agenda. Without a script. Without Ryan. Just her. The way she used to be. The way I still believe she can be again. It's funny how we spend our lives building homes for people, then end up living alone in them. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some houses are just meant to be lessons, not destinations. A reminder that walls protect, but they also isolate. That doors open but only from the inside. And that family isn't set. Blood. It stubs memory. And sometimes, memory forgets you back. But not all of it. Some parts hold on. Like the smell of her shampoo in the hallway. Like the scrape on the kitchen wall from Emma's tricycle. Like the warmth of my wife's fingers when she used to tap my knee during long drives. Those things stay. Even when people don't set. Especially when people don't set. I don't want to die angry. I don't want to become one of those men who turns bitterness into personality, so I light a candle for her every week. Not for Emma. For her mother, the one who saw the cracks before I did, the one who left the inheritance box behind the fireplace, the one who knew love wasn't about giving, it was about giving up when needed. Giving up pride. Control. Even the idea of being understood. She was always braver than me in that way. And I hope, wherever she is now, she sits watching this quiet version of me and saying, "Took you long enough." Because it did. But I'm here now. And even though peace doesn't clap, it waits. If this story touched you, hit the like button and comment your thoughts. It helps more people find these stories. Blood doesn't always mean loyalty. And silence is sometimes louder than revenge. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.